Good evening. Call the meeting of February 4th, 2025 to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll of the council.
Councilman Fogarty,
Councilman Fogarty is not able to make it tonight.
Councilman Lawson,
Yeah.
Council Vice President Rego,
Yeah.
Councilwoman Souza.
Here.
Council President Rodrick.
Here, the record show 4 members are present, 1 is absent. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we will wait the executive session. We'll just have items, letters A through F, but we will hold off on that at the conclusion of the meeting. We will move there. There's nothing, a couple of the bigger items we have to hold off for the next meeting. So rather than delay while folks are here, Madam Clerk, we will do the executive session after. So if you want to pick up the agenda at the next juncture.
Consent calendar for discussion and possible vote. A, Council Journals, January 7th, 2025, regular meeting. Abatement, $4,931.77. Acknowledgement of the resignation of member David O'Connell from the East Providence Waterfront Commission.
To approve the consent as read.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza to approve the consent as read. Councilman Lawson and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. Thank you. Next item.
Licenses for discussion and possible vote.
I move to bundle the licenses.
Second.
C1 through C9.
Yes, sir.
So the motion by Councilwoman Souza is to bundle the licenses, C1 through C9, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve the same, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. Next item.
Public hearing, type of business, transfer of tenancy. Applicant Mark Bubin. Business name, Ashigo.
Ichigo Ichi.
Thank you. Address 5 Cattermore Boulevard.
Does this include the liquor license?
Um,
All right, at this time, Mr. President, Madam Clerk, under Rhode Island state law, I need to recuse myself.
Thank you. The record show, Vice President Rego will accuse himself from discussion. And Madam Clerk, you. All set? Yes, applicant is present. Good evening and welcome. Just identify yourself for the record.
Mark Bubin on behalf of Ichigo Ichi. Good evening. Office is representing managing member and the purpose of tonight is to seek the transfer of the liquor license from Ichigo Ichi to Ichigo Ichi RI LLC.
So, Mr. President, I'm just looking at the agenda. It looks like that was contained in the consent agenda. That should not have been approved on the consent agenda. So we're just going to pull that off. And should be under this public.
Vote on this separately,
Separately, yeah.
part of the public hearing.
Yes.
So noted. Thank you. I'm sorry, you can continue.
Yes, the managing member is Brian Cheng. Brian Cheng was originally a co-member of Ichigo Ichi with his brother Kenny Cheng. Kenny Cheng is leaving the relationship, and Brian has formed Ichigo Ichi RI and will be operating in an identical manner through the existing Ichigo Ichi. We're seeking to transfer liquor license and food licenses to the new entity.
Okay, so the business is remaining the same, transfer of
Yes.
names.
Yes.
So Mark, I'm sorry, it's going from like two owners to one, basically. It's going from two owners to one.
There will be a minority owner of the new entity as well.
Okay, council questions?
Do they have to be on the license, the minority owner?
The LLC is on the license, so whatever that LLC, just the name of the LLC, you don't have to go deeper than that.
So just to clarify, Mr. Solicitor, we are approving two separate licenses, one for the business transfer to Ichigo Ichi.
Which is the liquor license.
And a liquor license.
That is,
It's the
Or just the,
It's a viculating and the liquor. I don't understand what the transfer of the tenancy is. That wouldn't be a license that we would normally do. I think that we would normally just do the liquor license and the viculating license.
And just to, you mentioned it was under consent, it was under the licenses, not the consent
Oh, I'm
calendar.
sorry.
It's okay.
It was bundled, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
none.
It was under the bundle license. We should have pulled that off. I'm sorry.
Nope, that's fine. Just wanted to clarify. the record.
questions on the council. This is
I'm good.
a public hearing. Is there anyone present who'd like to speak against or for this? Or have any comments? Once again, is there anyone present here tonight to speak on this transfer? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council, what is your pleasure? Motion by Councilwoman Souza to approve, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the ayes have it, 3-0. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Rigo, you're welcome back.
Councilman Rigo, I just want to advise you that unfortunately, the liquor license transfer that we just spoke of was actually also listed erroneously under the bundle licenses, so we'll just recuse yourself from that vote as well. I think you should do it. Yeah, just do it. Yeah.
I think you should go to jail.
If I may, can I?
Mr. President, Madam Clerk, for the record, I want to
Yes.
clarify that I recuse myself for the bundling portion of the liquor, of the licenses.
And just for the clarity, so people know, if they don't know, this is due to your
Ownership
Employment
of, yeah,
and ownership.
ownership of a liquor wholesaler.
Thank you. Yes, Councilwoman.
So I was going to ask the city solicitor, as the person who made the motion to approve the bundle and the approval, I could just rescind that, both of those motions, and then redo the call so that we are in the affirmative in the more appropriate manner.
Let's do it the right way.
Let's do it that way. That's a good way. And so it's going to excuse everything except 7, basically.
Do I have to leave again?
Stand up in the back.
Just stand up in the.
Madam Clerk, if
Proceed, Councilwoman.
you could read the agenda item for us.
Licenses for discussion and possible vote.
So I make a motion to bundle all licenses in section C1 through 9, with the exception of number 7.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I make a motion to approve all the non-public licenses from C1 to 9, with the exception of C7.
Motion to approve,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you
So-
for that.
You said there's no transfer of tenancy thing. Do we need to re-vote on the liquor license? Or that vote's fine? Okay.
Sorry.
Continue, Madam Clerk. Is it communications?
Yes.
So I would have to go. No.
Nothing was sent in, okay. There a public comment sheet? Okay. Thank you.
I would just mention anyone in the audience who was here for a licensing, you have been approved, so you're free to go. Have a good evening. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. The sign-up sheet for tonight, the first person is W. Vincent Wang. Please come forward if you're here.
No, here he is.
Mr. Wang, are you here? Okay. Sure, please come forward. That's okay. Just please give your name and address for the record.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wei Xing Vincent Wang. Call me Vincent. That's the exact name on my U.S. passport. I'm very glad. Oh, my address is 71 Vanderland Avenue, East Providence. The thing I want to talk is my car was totaled in the street of Chester Depew. I think this street is very well known. They have the water reservoir formed when there's a big rain. And that day, when I came back from Boston at midnight, I just don't know. It's 3 deep. 3 feet deep. I thought it's only 1 feet I can go through, but in the middle, my car just trapped there, and I have to get out of the car. And they called the firework department, and both police and firework came there. They want to ask me where to go hospital. I said I don't need. The reason why it has some red wine because of negligence of the city. They never clean these dirt on the draining entrance. And this is not new issue. It happened almost every year. The last time was August 23rd, 2022. And since then, they still don't clean these thing. If they cleaned it, there would be no such a thing. I lost my car, just because they never cleaned that one. And after that, I put my complaint and put the reason for why it has a reservoir. It's all because this blockage of the drainer entrance. This is on TV. They had before, that's 2022. And after I complained, they did clean. And since then, there are no any water reservoir formed since then. Everything is going smoothly. But before I made the complaint, they did not do anything. And there are no signs, say the street closed. I said, if there's such a big reservoir, you should close the street or let people know. At least put a sign. They never did. But after I made my complaint, they put the sign. When there's the rain, people know it won't. That day when my car was trapped there, the remaining car want to go there. I said, no, my car stopped in the middle. You cannot go through.
Hey, could you wrap up or there's a time limit and we have other people, but hang on before
I
you.
wrap up. So I submitted my complaint, and I was only said I only got approved for 4,000, but my car was 13,500. And I'm retired. I'm 67. Each month only 1,000 less than 2,000 income. So this is a big loss.
So I understand though that you have met with the city, you have met with the solicitor,
No.
and there has been
Yeah,
the city has done what they can do for it. And
I never had a chance to talk,
there was an
O'Connell.
approval already.
but that's not.
It's just not the amount you want, but there was an approval.
No, that's too less because it's 13,000. And if you pay 2/3, I would accept it. Okay, please reconsider for that because really big. It's really the negligence of the city. I did nothing wrong. They did not put sign. They did not clean the street for years, and that's why the reservoir. And I should get a reward because I made all these suggestions, and they did. After I made all these suggestions, they cleaned the entrance and they put a sign. There, since then, no issue occurred. If before me somebody made such a suggestion, the issue had been already fixed. But I helped the city fix the issue.
I understand you're not happy with the city's
No, it's the
vote,
fact.
but
We
it's
have
been
to-
taken. Do you want to add, Mr. Solicitor?
So as you know, the city council dealt with this claim. This was originally sent to our insurance carrier, the Interlocal Trust. They denied a claim based upon the fact that, based upon our investigation, the police reports that Mr. Wang drove into the puddle. And obviously it's open and obvious. You drive into a puddle, you're not supposed to do that. However, so that then when they denied the claim for us, it was brought back to the council as a claims committee. I don't remember the exact date. It was more than a year ago. I think Councilman Rigo backed me up on that, more than a year ago. All these issues were presented to the council. The initial claim was to deny, which was voted upon by, I believe, this council. And then subsequently, after some more insistence by Mr. Wang, the council took up the claim again. And as a compromise, recognizing all the legal issues involved, offered, I believe it's $4,300 or whatever the price was. And we have offered that to Mr. Wang upon him submitting signing a proposed lease. That offer is still out there. Excuse me, release. That offer is still out there. He has refused to sign the release of all claims, and until such time as that release is signed, we don't give him any money. I understand that he's here asking for more money. It's really not on the agenda other than to address the council on that issue. But that's where it stands from a legal perspective. So
There's no reason given to me. Why? It's
The
Denied only
insurance
by-
company denied it, and we'd made a substantial
No,
offer, and you refused to accept it. That's the end of this case.
the reason. No, the reason is the city is responsible. It's negligence.
Okay.
If we
Well-
cannot resolve, I'll go to the legal matter. But the thing is, because it's clear, it's the city's negligence. They did not do any cleaning like this. After I made the suggestion, they did the cleaning.
I understand.
They even
So noted.
rebuilt. So no, it's clear now. They did a very clean now.
Okay.
Okay, but I should get a reward. But I was not even paid for my. So if it's paid 2/3, I would be okay.
You
But
can
I would only
continue
pay
to,
1/3.
you can
that's-
continue to correspond with the legal department here. But this, we voted already.
No, I
but I-
did not have a chance. I
Thank
want to present all these facts.
Okay, I
Ask
do
for
have to
this-
get to the next few
Okay,
speakers.
this is a
Thank you.
negligence. Okay, there are no other reason. It's a complete negligence. If we cannot resolve, I will sue the city.
Thank you. Okay. Next person, Candy Seal. With a brand new address. No, it's not. Out of the city.
I promise to be brief. Candy Seal, 125 South Rose Street, East Providence, 02914. Good evening. I want to share with you a letter to the editor of the Post that I submitted for this week's issue. It will be published on Thursday. Quote, recently, Keep Metacomet Green submitted a research paper for the record to a number of state agencies, including RIDOT, DEM, the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission, and the Scenic Roadways Board. These folks will soon be determining the fate of the Veterans Memorial Parkway, whether it will remain a peaceful roadway for the pleasure of the public or become a version of Seekonk's Route 6. Our 30-page paper explores 3 ways in which the parkway is historically significant. First, as a scenic roadway designed and built by the Olmsted brothers, sons of the legendary landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted, and as a roadway that is designated as eligible for inclusion on the National Register of Historic Places and is recognized as such. Second is the parkway's significance as a possible repository of Native American artifacts that identify a site as a place of daily living activities. Reports have presented credible evidence of such activities to the east, west, north, and south of it. Third is its significance as a literal memorial to veterans and to those who have given their lives in wartime, from the Revolutionary War to more recent times. Monuments and memorials are present along the parkway, from simple stones to the Emerald Brothers Bridge over the Cove and the Garden of Flags further south. The state agencies mentioned above haven't responded yet. They may not be all that interested. After all, building a roundabout at the Lyon Avenue intersection and widening lanes is a big deal to us in East Providence. But to people who aren't that familiar with the parkway and its cultural and historic importance to our community, it could be just another item in a day's work. We also sent our paper to the members of the City Council. As of this writing, we have not heard from any of them either. We have to think that preserving the iconic Veterans Memorial Parkway would be of interest to them. After all, some of them served on the previous council that voted to limit the traffic on the parkway to its current capacity. Some of them represent the wards that encompass the Metacomet area, including the parkway. Some are veterans and outspoken advocates for fellow veterans, which is admirable. They've all been respectful of the Native American community and were seemingly supportive of the effort to require an archaeological survey of Metacomet. For the most part, this council has pretty much washed its hands of the Metacomet matter, citing their lack of authority since the previous council handed it off to the Waterfront Commission to deal with. While they may not have authority, though, they can still voice their opinions individually or as a group to these state agencies. They could share the concerns about the proposed alterations to the parkway in light of its history and significance to our community. They could tell them that a 21-foot high monument sign at the development's entrance is not acceptable. They could partner with Mayor De Silva to move along a renewed application for the parkway's nomination to the National Register. Excuse me. AMG calls on the members of the council not only to take the opportunity, but also to recognize their responsibility, to reach out to decision makers at the state level on behalf of the community. The previous council gave up the 138-acre open space of Metacomet to a development of an enormous scale, which is the only reason for altering the parkway. We urge this council not to lose the scenic and iconic parkway as well. Once it's gone, like Metacomet, it's gone forever. For more information or to read our paper, please see our Facebook page or email to kmg4ep@gmail.com. End quote. Thank you.
Thank you, Candy. A couple of the members are saying they don't recall getting a letter. I think I do. I remember getting it. I think I'll go back and look, but hearing from 2, I would just say to you, excuse me, I think I recall reading it, and as you just read it, I don't recall that there was specific questions per se, but it wasn't ignored. I just, I have answered you often, and I kind of took it as information, but I'll reread it, and if I have some more thoughts, I'll send it along to you.
Thank you,
Also,
Council President. I
sure.
appreciate that. I did send it to each member individually, and I sent it to the city clerk for the record.
Is it 1/7/25? That when you sent it? January 7th or recently?
It could have been January 7th.
Okay, yeah, I have it.
All right, I thought you got it. I thought you just sent it. And you said,
No, it was January 7th, several weeks ago, a month ago, as a matter of
I'm
fact.
sure we all got it. They don't always catch up to their emails.
I
I
understand.
mean, no, I thought it was the letter to the editor and everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's good.
No, thank you for that.
This letter will appear in the Post. I just want to read it
Okay.
into the record tonight.
Yep,
Thank you all.
thank you. Next person A little difficult to read the first name. I don't know if that is Arlindo. It's Gonzalez, the last name. Looks like Glenda Gonzalez. So there's somebody here, last name Gonzalez from Lewis Farm Road in Green, Rhode Island. Okay. Not too clearly. Well, if they're not here, we'll move on to Evo Vieira. He left, okay. Leslie Pereira. She left. Okay. Oh, so they put down to speak and they didn't have to. Okay. Before we go on to the next item, I would ask the council, do you want to, as a courtesy to our fire chief who was here, and he has certainly had some busy days on page 8,
Motion to approve?
probably here for that. If we want to move to that. Motion, well, we'll just
We've got to talk about it.
to move the item up to, you don't really need to have a motion. We'll just, without objection, I will move that. I believe it's on page 8, number 4. Madam Clerk, if you could read the title of that resolution.
Number 4, resolution authorizing the mayor to purchase a new rescue for the fire department, sponsored by Council Vice President Rigo.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, Mr. President. Obviously, as the city continues to improve equipment for first responders, this is another tool that we need. Also look forward to the day that this rescue is working 24/7 for the entire city so that we will get us to the 4th rescue. So I move passage of this item.
This is going to Riverside, not Rumford. Second.
Motion made in second. Any other questions of the council?
So this isn't replacing any, this is in addition to the fleet, correct?
But the chief,
Oh, it has we buy, we recycle, Okay.
Thank you, Chief Perry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this is a new rescue that'll be replacing the Riverside Rescue, Rescue 2 in Riverside. And that
I withdraw my motion. No, I withdraw.
Your rescue councilman is coming, it was supposed to be here
2028.
Yeah,
December
yeah.
because of the hurricane this past summer.
Yep.
They bumped it up 2 months and literally just went in the line last week.
Okay.
So we're looking at the end of March, beginning of June for that delivery. When the new rescue comes in, it'll take Rescue 2's place. Rescue 2 will then be renumbered and go in reserve. These trucks do 2,000 miles a month, double that for engine hours because of idling time, both on scene and at the hospital. They're good for 4 years in service, 4 years reserve, and then it's time to send them someplace else because they're done. But that's typically what we're doing now.
Great, thank you for the answer.
Thank you. Motion made in second. Did you get the motion in a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Council Vice President. Thank you, Chief. We revert back to page 5 in the agenda. Madam Clerk, I believe we're at appointments.
Reappointment of Elizabeth Ingram to the East Providence Public Library Trustees, Council Vice President Rigo.
Council Vice President.
That wasn't a coup or anything. That was just a misprint. Thank you. So at this time, want to reappoint a very dedicated member of the library board, Elizabeth Ingram, for another term.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by both Councilwoman Souza and Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next item.
Council members, number 1, effect of potential state and federal executive order impounding grants and allocation and effect of on future city finances. Council President Rodrick.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I just wanted to start the conversation that is my recommendation, my thoughts that we as a council need to be very cognizant of finances. I think we have done a very good job to date. The city is on sound financial footings with all credit ratings and other ratings that are given to municipalities. We have spent, we talked about at the last meeting, I think we took advantage of almost $30 million in combination of federal grants and funding and some state funding, and have made a lot of improvements in the city. Going forward, we know that the climate is changing. You know, the pandemic monies have pretty much been used up. There is a few dollars left. There is a new federal administration where we know that even some funds for the George Washington Bridge project were put on pause. We're hearing positive comment as much as possible that because those funds do not attach to the green climate legislature and things like electric cars, that the money will still be coming. However, we just need to be careful. Going forward, we know we have 2 expensive school bond issues that will have to be repaid. We've already started that process. Something we all wanted, the public wanted, and we have a school system that's in pretty good shape with infrastructure, and thankfully, we all agree that we're helping to make that happen. So I think each of us going forward have to just be aware that if there are any projects we have, and we need to, I'm sure the mayor's office is thinking along these same lines, funds are not going to be forthcoming as much as they have been the past several years. So we, the public, all of us need to be very, very aware of this and keep our good financial footing as much as possible. That's all. Next item.
Discuss safety measures in our public spaces. Councilman Lawson.
Well, this is just to get a conversation started. We've had a couple violent events at our parks. A couple people reached out with their concerns. The last thing we want is for any townie to feel unsafe, especially in a public space. We've also had issues with like people dumping furniture and trash like at Sabin Point and stuff. So this is just the start of a conversation that I want to be proactive, ensure that, you know, we have measures. It's not feasible to have a cop at every park at all times. Do we want to look at other things that could deter people or help law enforcement catch people who commit these violent acts? Again, just to start the conversation, give people time to think about it, and then we can circle back. But when I get an email from someone saying that they fear going to a public park, we got to take action. And I'm not saying our parks are not safe at all. Please don't take it that way. But I believe in being proactive. So that's it for that one.
Yep. Thank you. I just want to agree with you that there were a couple of isolated incidents. 99% of our parks or recreational facilities have been safe and safely used. But, you know, one bad incident is too many. So and I know.
That's the one people remember, not all the
Sure.
good times, that one. Yep.
Thank you. Next item.
Number 3, discuss streetscapes in our commercial corridors and reestablishment of the City Council Beautification Advisory Commission. Councilman Lawson.
So this year, I'm going to be laser focused on our commercial corridors, the aesthetics of them. I firmly believe one way to help small business is to make the place their business is at as attractive as possible to help bring in customers. We have some really good stuff going on. You look at Waterman Ave, Crook Point Brewery, Roses, Jeff's, the Myrtle. You know, I'd like to see what we can do, whether it's adding greenery, widening sidewalks, commercial corridors we're looking at, like Waterman Ave, Warren Ave, Taunton Ave, Riverside Square, going up through Newport. And also by extension, our public parks, playgrounds. And do we have like a master plan, or are we just throwing things in? And when I started discussing this with some various folks, it was mentioned to me, how about bringing back the beautification? And I firmly believe we got to talk to our fellow townies and get an idea of what they're thinking as well. So, so this kind of goes with bringing back beautification. They can advise us on some ideas. We can just keep pushing, and I just think it makes a lot of sense to really work on the aesthetics of the city. So that really going to be my focus this year.
Well, thank you for that, Councilman. I just wanted to add to the discussion. So when prior to that beautification being dismantled by a previous council, there was funding that was put into by the councils on a yearly basis that helped with that aesthetics. So there was a fund, and then they could go and plant flowers in like different pots around the city, or added some areas. I recall we added those big pots, and then throughout the seasons, our DPW would change them out, similar to how they do here at City Hall. And even City Hall, you know, making these flower beds more robust, not just the mulch and the beautiful trees that are there, which are, the woman who does do it does an amazing job. But it was to build on that. I would be interested in also seeing, because I know that our planning department has various buckets of funds to help businesses, right? And I know they go through an algorithm of, you know, what people have to meet in certain criteria. And I think maybe looking at what we currently have in those pools of funds, and maybe making some adjustments to then help this particular cause. So I know we have been helping businesses as like startups, so getting from the inside out, and sometimes they don't get to the out, right? Because the funds, they go fast when you're starting up a business, and depending on the extent of the business, things get very costly, just HVAC and plumbing. You know, those things alone can become very encumbersome. And so maybe looking at that pile of money that we use in a rotating fund, that we maybe set aside a subcategory for just the outside aesthetics. So businesses or that may need something as simple as a nice visible sign at their establishment, to like Miller's had used their funds for, might be something that would help those corridors.
Well, we still have that money available through ARPA, right? For the placemakers as well as the sign, we still should have some money.
Right, but I think, are you saying expand on the sign to include like the front walks and stuff? Yeah, I get what she's saying. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
I'd
I
be
think
all
it's,
for that.
yeah, I think
All
it's,
in.
there's,
Yeah.
more
Absolutely.
that we can do. And I think
Mhm.
maybe having a workshop on an off night with
Absolutely.
businesses. And then maybe, you know, I know we have a handful or less than a handful of businesses who are on the business committee. And I know they haven't gotten that up and running because they don't have a large amount. I think there's probably 3 or 4 people on that committee currently. So again, I would recommend anybody who has or may have any business owners in their ward to encourage them to apply so that we can put them on that board. I'd really like to focus on, in addition to getting that committee up and running and meeting, because they have reached out, but there's only a few people on it. I don't think it might be a start.
Talking about us.
Mm-hmm.
What do you wanna-
I don't think so.
I will get on that. I apologize.
So thank you for bringing this up. I think that there's definitely some good work that.
Yeah, I mean, down in Willard Ave, you know, it's like a food court now, you know? But things like making it pleasing for people to want to walk from their neighborhood over there. Are we sidewalks safe enough to walk? You know, a lot of people are talking bikes and stuff like that. So just getting this going and just, I think that will do so much for the city. So that's that for that one. Do you want to vote on the beautification now, or we can wait? Doesn't matter to me.
We can vote on it now since it's the topic. So with,
Sure, without objection, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I move
Do
fast.
do you have it?
I don't. It's a resolution establishing, yeah. Resolution establishing the East Providence City Council Beautification Advisory Commission. Let me see if I have. There we go. Whereas City Council, we support enhancing the aesthetics of East Providence public areas and streetscapes. And whereas City Council believes strongly in input from the community when it comes to enhancing our public areas and streetscapes. Whereas City Council believes strongly that one way to assist small business owners to ensure we are creating an environment that is warm, open, and inviting in our commercial corridors. And whereas city strongly believes in crafting a strategic plan to enhance our public playgrounds, parks, and fields and commercial corridors. Therefore, there'll be a commission, 5 residents, we each get 1 pick on it. And they'll serve a term of 3 years. And they may be reappointed any number of times by a majority of a council vote. And
It's a
they'll have
motion?
to follow all the OMA and stuff like that.
Is there a second?
second,
Second by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. Thank you.
I'd like to table number 4.
Without objection, sure. 4 is tabled.
Number 5, discussion on maintenance of the railroad tracks within City of East Providence. Council Vice President Rigo.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. President. This has come to my attention predominantly in the neighborhood of the railroad tracks abutting Algonquin Road. A lot of the railroad tracks, most of the mileage of the railroad tracks go through the first ward as well as the second ward. And what is happening here is the railroad company is not what I would consider being a good neighbor for the taxpaying citizens of the city. I will have pictures coming up, but along Algonquin Road, trees are falling on people's fences. They're falling on people's sheds. They constant problem. One time, a couple of weeks ago, I guess they did go by and they cut some trees and they didn't notify them. And thank God the people and the animals weren't on the outside because the machine going by was just like throwing the wood into the yard. One landed in a person's pool. It's been numerous problems all along the corridor that comes up Broadway and Wilson Avenue. The streets like Duncan and Mayfair continue to have problems with the railroad. I don't know if we need to further draft something to our state delegation to get them involved, because solicitor, you can correct me, but is technically the railroad the state property? Or is it the railroad's property?
I'm assuming that the railroad easement where the railroad is either property of the railroad or a federal easement, but most likely the railroad. So maybe we can find out the owner of that railroad and figure out, send a letter expressing their concerns about the cleanup around it. There's also a federal agency that governs railroad.
Still?
Yes, governs railroad stuff like this. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but there is an agency that might be able to look into it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in other parts of the country like Michigan and Illinois, railroads are pretty, still very run a lot of roads and
Here too.
yeah, here too, but not as much. But is it Providence and Worcester? Are they still in business?
They are not. It's
So
a
somebody took them over?
Genovese in Wyoming. I think it's a different company they bought out.
Okay, but all right. So yeah, whoever is the
We'll look into
Parent
it and maybe
company
draft a
of
letter for you to
GW.
send or have the
Yes.
council send.
okay.
See what
It's
we can do.
just I've got when you get one phone call and then you get numerous phone calls along the way, it becomes it's an issue, obviously. So I just wanted to address it for my constituents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Number 6, Veterans Advisory Committee update, Councilman Lawson.
Just give you guys an update. We're getting ready to start up again after taking the holidays break. We're going to meet tomorrow. One of the topics we're going to talk about, Tori Jessup brought forward, Tori's awesome, by the way, brought forward a program. It's called Hometown Hero Banners. And I believe Barrington has it where they have some banners lining some streets with various veterans. So she's going to present that to us tomorrow, and then I'll follow up with you guys and bring it forward, see if it's something you'd want to support. And then we'll probably start planning our next event for getting veterans to understand, various benefits. Tony Ballerano, he's awesome giving us, that guidance, because it's not easy navigating the VA system. And then we're going to do our usual, stuff throughout. Yes. So, but that's it. I mainly want to give you guys a heads up on the Hometown Hero banner. And Tori will give us a good update, and then I'll present it to the council.
Seekonk does it all.
Seekonk does?
152, like, especially starting around Memorial Day, they have them. The fellow female and male, war veteran and everything. So,
Yeah, we got a lot of vets that'd be really nice to honor throughout the whole city, not just the Memorial Parade route. So, and that's it for the VAC.
Thank you, Councilman, for keeping that active.
Oh, absolutely.
Next.
Number 7, Warming Center update, Council President Rodrick.
I just want to quickly thank a few people in the city. We all are aware of the news whereby we've had some extremely cold weather, and the annual problem of people that are homeless or unhoused is one of the terms being used now, and need a place to go. The state really has lagged behind in getting anything going at that level.
There is an update.
Okay, and then we'll get that update. And then East Providence did step up. It was not a full-blown shelter per se, but it was an overnight warming shelter. And to make sure I don't forget anybody, but from the mayor's office, Andrea Vargas, I believe, was the coordinator, and with about a day's notice, she put together a program at the senior center, along with Laura Jones, the director, Diane Sullivan, of course, mayor's office, Patricia Rezende, and they provided a great emergency warming center, mostly for East Providence residents, but certainly weren't going to turn away anybody. I stopped by there the first night. Only 2 people did take advantage of it, but it was a young couple, and at least they had a warm place that night. And a lot of donations came in to the point where I know Andrea and Laura Jones said to me, because I was getting calls from people wanting to send more stuff over, and they said, really, if we get any more, we're going to have to turn around and donate it out, because we have a lot. So whether it was 2 people or 30 people, the city responded, and we made something available. Hopefully, maybe next year there'll be more of a permanent setup somewhere, and hopefully the state will step up. Do you have an update on the state?
Yeah. Speaker Sakachi, he spoke, I think it was today, about the pallet shelters. Apparently zoning of various things kind of was holding things up. They're ready to go. It's just a matter, as usual, the state can't get out of its own way to get things done. But they're ready to go. So that hopefully will alleviate people out on the streets, people out in the cold. I thought when I heard pallet that they would wood structures. So I was like, whoa, fire. But apparently they're very safe. They're very, they're not bad looking, you know, so before people freak out. So
It
looks
was
like-
the fire suppression that was the delay, right?
which we know after the station fire, everybody and their mother had to buy a sprinkler system, which put a lot of VFW halls out of business. But you're right. You do want to be safe, absolutely. But sometimes the regulations could be a little bit too onerous, and they stop things that are needed. So it looks like that will probably be hopefully done, where those shelters are set up sooner than later. Winter's almost over, but you know.
And on that note, in regards to the pallet houses, a nice shout out should go out to East Providence resident Laura Jawalski, who has spearheaded that and has put in numerous hours. She's just an amazing woman, and now that I just said amazing woman, she should be at the top of the list for amazing women when we have that ceremony. So Laura would be outstanding. I mean, she's a constituent of mine, but take that away. I mean, for what she's done and the blood, sweat, and tears that she's put forth to get this thing up and running is amazing.
Thank you. So in closing, we just want to extend our appreciation to the staff. And when I say they were there, they stayed overnight. You know, they stayed, they slept there. There was supervision. A police officer would come in and check occasionally, and EMTs occasionally. So it was very well done. So Director Rezendi, if you could pass that along to the rest of the staff. Thank you. Without objection, I would like to, before we start any of the public hearings, go to page 7, item number 2. If there is no objection in this resolution. And this is a resolution sponsored by Councilman Lawson. I have, do you want me to read the resolution?
You mind if I read it, say a remark, and then hand it off to you?
Not at all,
Okay.
please.
All right, let me pull it up. All right, so this came about, you know, we got an awesome city and we're growing. We're bringing in so many new townies and it's awesome and amazing. But we also got a history here too. And, you know, part of what I'd like to do is make sure that people know about the area that they're coming into. That's why, you know, we work to rename the park Crescent Park. That's why we're fighting to keep Oldham, to make sure it's used as a community space business incubator. This is just another step in that direction. So I will read the resolution and then I will let Council President, he can wax eloquently so much better than I can on these things. But as a kid growing up in the 80s, Big Al, if you played any youth sport, you know who he was. So this resolution establishing the Big Al Alfred D. Santee Recreational Park, currently known as the Riverside Athletic and Recreation Center, or more affectionately, the REC. Whereas City Council desires to recognize the contributions of the late Alfred D. Santee, known as Big Al, to thousands of youth in East Providence and particularly in Riverside. Big Al was a beloved coach and mentor to local youth in football, baseball, and basketball leagues for more than 40 years. Whereas Big Al was a lifelong resident of East Providence and a graduate of the East Providence High School. He is an East Providence High School Hall of Fame inductee. And whereas Big Al served the nation as a United States Air Force veteran, seeing active duty during Vietnam. And whereas Big Al was a dedicated employee for the City of East Providence Water Division for 25 years before retiring in 1992. Whereas Big Al is fondly remembered for his dedication, enthusiasm, and loyalty to the future of Riverside youth sports since it says, should that be up until his untimely death, passing in 2000?
Well, he's been remembered since.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I stumbled over that.
No problem.
Whereas an annual scholarship in the name of Big Al is offered to college-bound students by the Riverside Little League. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the East Providence City Council hereby declares and establishes the Alfred D. Santee Big Al Recreational Park at the Somerset Street Sports Complex in Riverside, Rhode Island.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilman. I think you pretty much covered it all. And just to illuminate a little bit on the entire area, we all know it's called the Rec. It was always called the Rec. It will still always be called the Rec, but it does need to have some formal recognition. We're really recognizing two people with this. We're recognizing Big Al, which many people in Riverside have been asking for a few years. I also coached at that time. I was on the other side of the field because he had his teams, I had my teams, and Big Al was ever present on football field, baseball field, and the basketball courts. And not only in Riverside, but all throughout the state as his teams traveled. And the original complex, which was basically just that corner of the large baseball field, and that it was named and will remain named in honor of Mr. Frank Delfemini. There's a large boulder at the corner of the park and Somerset Street, and you'll notice, and that was provided by the Delfemini family. And I let them know that, this is going to be a nice partnership. It's Big Al, it's Frank Delfemini, who used to be supervisor of parks in the city a long, long time ago. And that we're going to enhance that too, because there's no real signage up on that fence. So the boulder stays, it'll be emblazoned with Mr. Delfemini's name. And since those years, the park has expanded. There's football, there's soccer, there's girls softball way in the corner as you head towards Riverside Middle School. And there is a field and some parking now behind the school. Not really a part of the Rec, but it's all one. It's all one complex and connected. So by this way, we will acknowledge Big Al and still remember Mr. Delfemini, which will specifically be that big baseball field. There's basketball courts, other things that are associated with him. And Big Al will kind of be overall in the park and the complex. And we'll work with Public Works and Parks on getting some signage done. So it's
What I'd like to do with the
Please.
signage is get creative and maybe have a fundraiser where we have like either wiffle ball, softball, or some kind of games to honor Big Al, but also as a benefit to raise money to buy nice signage for that, maybe an interpretive signage of what he did and just something. But I think that'd be a cool way to bring back the folks that remember him through youth sports. Have a fun fundraiser.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It'll be fun to get everybody together. This is not unprecedented. Excuse me. We also have in Rumford the Kim Rock Complex, which has 3 or 4 fields with other names on it, and also at in Riverside, Providence Avenue playground behind the old Oldham School, which has Brown and Connors fields, and yet it's under the name of Providence Avenue, and Piercefield, which has 2 Little League fields. One is the Bob Amaral Field. Bob instituted girls softball in the city. And the other one is the Roderick's Field, which, for set the record straight, yes, was a field named in 1974 for my dad, who was active at the time. I was certainly not in politics, had nothing to do with it. You were 5 years old. I don't know if Anna was born yet. You were not born yet.
Nope,
And
not.
I can attest there would be no Little League in the city without your great late dad.
Well, thank you, sir. And the Rego family was there at that time. So it had nothing to do with me. I was a proud young teenager when that was named. So in that vein, that's how all of this has come to fruition. And Riverside has a passion about Big Al. So I'm sure I've heard today from many of them that they were happy. And so with that said, Councilman Lawson, that's a motion. Is there a
Second.
second by Councilwoman Souza? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councilman. And now, Madam Clerk, if we've confused you enough, back to the regular agenda. Page 5, is it?
Public hearings, ordinance for second and final passage for discussion and possible vote. Number 1, an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Vehicles and Traffic. The Council of the City of East Providence hereby ordains Section 1, Article 10, entitled Stopping, Standing, and Parking of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinance of the City of East Providence, as amended by adding a new Section 18-317, which set municipal parking lot regulations and signage, introduced by Council President Rodrick.
Thank you. There was some initial discussion at the last meeting. I've talked with Councilwoman Souza about this, and I think you have some ideas to get a little more specific. And if you want to bring that up, and maybe we could put this off a bit.
Yes, so,
I think the intent is still to do it, but we want to
correct.
clear it up.
This would be for 1 and 2 on the docket. So after reading the ordinance, when it came for first passage and thinking about it and looking at what it says, I think that there is definitely some reasoning behind it, giving the police some teeth and some power over taking actions on the parking concerns. But I think that restricting or not knowing which parking lots that we're going to be using ahead of time and just leaving it to the discretion of the Director of Public Works without coming before the council and making it known in a transparent way, like all of the other signages across the city, especially when it comes to having a monetary amount of money being attached to a fine, I think is not, in my mind, reasonable. I think it's, there should be language that supports having it like the other signs where it comes before the council, it's made public, the public is aware, they have an opportunity to speak for or against it, and have an open discussion. Secondly, I'm not looking, and I don't think anyone, I would hope, is not looking for it to be a money grab and just another way to tax a resident that's using a public space that they're already paying taxes to use. I know that it, in my mind, is potentially something more for safety and enforcement. But again, I think that there are other things that we can put in before we start towing and adding additional fees to help someone that may have potentially left the car overnight because they were unable to drive safely home, or they had an incident with their vehicle that it was non-operable and they just didn't have the means at that moment to get it out of that specific location. So I think that there are variables that we can consider instead of automatically just towing people. We know with the snow ban, the parking ban we had with the snow, that the officers were out and enforcing that ordinance, which I would say 98% of the community was happy about because it got our streets cleared and safe for people to drive. But for those who did not move their vehicles and were hit with the fines for the violation, they were substantial in their minds, and they were a decent amount of money that people had to pay. And so I'm, again, not trying to put another financial barrier on people, but I think It's still something that should be done. It just needs a couple of more tweaking before I'm comfortable, and I think should be.
Sure, and I know my intent is certainly to avoid abuses, not someone, as the councilwoman said, who maybe had a legitimate hardship for one day or one night, but people not using lots in an abusive way. And without a full council tonight, Mr. Solicitor, can we just put this 1 and 2 off till the next meeting?
If you want to continue the public hearing to the next meeting, yes.
Continue
To
the,
the extent that any council member has any suggested changes.
Yeah.
It's the first passage, we need to get those as well.
okay, so the councilwoman will get those changes in, and we'll continue this without objection to the next meeting.
No, because we're setting the date, so it'll be continued to the next council date, which we when?
18.
We have the amendments by then?
For the 18th?
We have to go back to first passage anyway.
Yeah.
so. By the 18th? So the next, this public hearing on, let's just do this on a formal vote. Continue the
Right.
public hearing on both of these ordinances to the February 18th.
So is there a motion to continue the public hearing on both of these ordinances, numbers 1 and 2?
Just clarification.
The 18th.
If we're going back to first passage, we don't need to advertise, correct?
It's still second passage. You might have public comment as a result of the amendments that she has.
Okay.
The people themselves might have.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next item.
Number 3, an ordinance in amendment of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinance of the city traffic. Section 18-307 entitled Parking Prohibited at All Times of Article 10 entitled Stopping, Standing, and Parking is amended by adding thereto the following: Ivy Street, West Side, for a distance of 40 feet from the intersection of Waterman Avenue, introduced by Councilwoman Souza.
Thank you. So this is for second passage. So this is essentially just in line with where the current sign is. It wasn't in our ordinance book as 40 feet, but it is necessary because that corner is congested with the local businesses, and it has become on both sides of the corner a safety hazard for vehicles and pedestrians utilizing that general area. So I move for final passage.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza. Final passage. Is there a second?
This isn't a public hearing?
It is.
Yep, I'm just going to have a second.
Oh, yeah, I'll second.
Second by Councilman Lawson. Any council discussion? Hearing none. It's a public hearing. Is anyone here present to speak on this ordinance? One more time. Is anyone here present? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. What is your pleasure? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Second passage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
New business, Mayor Communication, Chief of Staff Patricia Rezendi.
Evening, Council.
Welcome.
Thank you. So just briefly, if I may, I'll go very quickly. So Elizabeth Kinder is listed as an appointment to the Tree Commission. Just as a courtesy, we wanted to alert the council. She is a former ESL teacher. She's been attending the Tree Commission meetings and getting involved. In terms of her background, I just wanted to make you aware. She currently has a tree growing business called Samuel Kinder and Brother Inc. in Rhode Island. She hires and trains employees. She supervises plantings and cares for nursery stock. So she's well versed in working with our planning department and the Tree Commission on our EDA grant for the $750,000 that we received to plant trees. So moving on, if there are no questions. If the council could bear with me while I read into record. There's 3 proclamations, all of which I would say are equally significant. One, as all of you know, we lost Marlene Davis to gallbladder cancer on Christmas morning. And I know that this was very important to her when the mayor wanted to proclaim this month as Gallbladder and Bile Duct Cancer Awareness Month. So she always said, if I could help educate one person, to look at this earlier, then it's important. That's all it took for her. So whereas gallbladder and bile duct cancer are relatively rare, affecting countless lives, with an estimated 12,350 people diagnosed with gallbladder cancer and 8,000 diagnosed with bile duct cancer each year. And whereas these terrible diseases often get past early detection, leading to challenges in providing timely and effective treatments and emphasizing the importance of increased awareness, education, and research. Whereas the City of East Providence hopes to shed light on the struggles faced by those affected by gallbladder and bile duct cancer, recognizing the impact on individuals, families, and the community as a whole. And whereas throughout this awareness month, we strive to welcome compassion and understanding, offering support to those in our community battling these cancers, and encouraging preventive measures, early detection, and advancements in medical research. Whereas the city stands in solidarity with those affected and those who have lost their lives to gallbladder and bile duct cancer, and the city is committed to the fight against gallbladder and bile duct cancer, striving for a future where no one has to endure the pain and suffering caused by these diseases. Therefore, on behalf of Mayor Bob DaSilva and the City of East Providence, we hereby proclaim February as Gallbladder and Bile Duct Cancer Awareness. So if you could share that with one person, we'll make our dear friend Marlene, who's probably watching the city council meeting from somewhere else now, aware of this. That would make her happy. And this month is Black History Month. I know I don't have it on the mayor communications, but on February 12th at noon, we will be having our Black History Month event. We just solidified some of those details, so the council will be receiving that from our office. So Black History Month. Whereas the City of East Providence honors the history and the achievements of Black Americans and calls on the members of the community to reflect on the centuries of struggle that have brought this time of reckoning, redemption, and hope. And whereas it is long past due to confront the deep racial inequities and the systemic racism that continue to plague the nation. And whereas the City of East Providence honors the history made by the Black Americans in our community and promises to continue the good and necessary work to achieve racial justice and equity within the city. Whereas the history of Black Americans has been silenced for too long, we shall continue to raise and uplift the voices of our Black community members and their ancestors. And whereas, President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month in 1976, I ask the citizens of East Providence to continue this tradition and seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area and endeavor throughout our history, just as President Ford did. Whereas after experiencing tragedy across the nation, East Providence works endlessly to acknowledge and teach the next generation of East Providence citizens the history of Black Americans in order for us to shape a better future for the community. And therefore, on behalf of Mayor Roberto DaSilva and the City of East Providence, we proclaim February as Black History Month, and we encourage all residents to join us in celebrating Black History Month on February 12th here at City Hall at noon. And lastly, as many of you know, the mayor wanted to make a proclamation to emphasize our diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the City of East Providence, which is a sensitive and timely topic currently. Whereas President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order in January 2025 that aims to end diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within the federal government. The administration and the City of East Providence is a welcoming community which embraces diversity. And whereas the administration supports diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in our workforce and throughout our community. Whereas the city currently addresses and mandates diversity in our personnel code and affirmative action ordinance. And whereas the administration reaffirms its commitment to adhere to ordinances and policies as set forth in Article or Section 11-136 Affirmative Action Plan. I won't necessarily read the verbiage, but whereas our administration through several executive orders has established a Mayor's Advisory Council on LGBTQI plus affairs, are the Mayor's Community Advisory Board and the Mayor's Advisory Council on Indigenous Affairs to advocate for a culture of respect and progress towards equality. And therefore, I, on behalf of Mayor Roberto Alba Silva and the City of East Providence, reaffirm diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the City of East Providence. And if I just may relay, we had a recent meeting where Councilman Lawson and Council President were in attendance, and this was a subject that was brought up, and there was concern from residents, and we'll work with the council and others to have a community meeting to be able to continue this discussion and support affairs from our community. And that is all for me, unless the council has any questions or comments.
Questions of the staff? No, thank you very much.
Thank you for
the
taking the time.
information. Sure thing. Okay, Madam Clerk, you want to continue the agenda?
C, report of school committee liaison, acknowledgement of both Ward 2 and Ward 3 seats won by Antonio DeSimis and David Luiz, voted in as vice chair and chair.
We were just going to welcome the school committee, but yeah, we'll acknowledge those. We just wanted to let the school committee know, the new members and those returning, that we're here. And I hope you saw by our actions over the last couple of years how much support you have from this city council when it comes to making sure our schools are, I believe every school building should be a palace style education. Our teachers should be well compensated. And we just want to acknowledge the new guys coming in and let them know that we're here, we're ready to talk, we're ready to listen. I pay attention to everything going on, and we're here to assist any way we can.
Thank you. In line with that, I've pretty much set up an informal conversation with the chair of the school committee on a weekly basis, just to keep in the loop. Thank you. Next item.
D, resolutions for discussion and possible vote.
On resolution number 1, without having a full committee here, we're going to also continue that until the next meeting. Without objection. That'd be the 18th. We've done number 2 and number 3 and number 4. So, Madam Clerk, if you want to continue with letter E.
Introduction of ordinances for discussion and possible vote. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Vehicles and Traffic. Article 10, entitled Stopping, Standing, and Parking, is amended by adding thereto the following section 18-317, resident parking only. A, the following street shall be designated as resident parking only. Ivy Street from Waterman Avenue to Blanding Street, both sides from 5 p.m. to 6 a.m., weekdays and Saturday and Sunday, all day. Introduced Council President Bob Rodriguez and Councilwoman Anna Souza.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Council President. So as many have known, and we've discussed in the past, that there have been community meetings regarding parking concerns and issues along very tight road streets in the center of the city that have been up and coming and developed with businesses, which we are extremely excited about because it brings life to the neighborhoods. But with that also brings more traffic and less room for on-street parking. So one of the outcomes that we discussed at the community meeting was implementing this residential parking only passes or permits. So this ordinance lays out the guidelines for how a resident who lives on the street of Blanding would be able to submit a permit only application for parking on that road. So that would include showing their registration for the vehicle, year, make, and model, VIN number. It would come with a cost for the permit. That permit obviously should be visible on their vehicle window so that if there is patrolling going around, that their car then does not subsequently get removed at owner's expense accidentally. So that is one of the things that was a result of that community meeting. Additionally, signage indicating that it would be residential permitted parking only, similar to what our neighboring downtown area has for overnight parking in Providence. Along those same lines, there are restrictions on the hours in which that parking is allowed with the permit, and that's laid out in the ordinance. So first passage for all those residents who may be watching or listening at home. Next council meeting, February 18th, will be public hearing. So certainly come out and voice your approval or not on the matter. I would also encourage anyone to reach out to me personally or any council member for that matter to discuss this in more detail if you would like. It's an open door policy for all council members, including myself. I look forward to the discussion and getting this right the first time. I know sometimes our intentions are well, and then once implemented, there are some things that should have been done a little bit differently. So obviously, public input is of the utmost important, and that's why we encourage anyone and everyone to reach out with any input, either for or against, so that we can make the changes necessary for the area. Thank you. So I move first.
Yeah, I'm going to support moving this forward. My only concern is, grandma and grandpa come and visit on the weekend. And this says Saturday and Sunday all day, resident only. That's the only thing. Just playing a little devil's advocate here. How do you handle visitors, and, family get Sunday dinners are big with my family. So just throwing it out there. I'm voting to move it forward.
That came up with in that neighborhood meeting, and the neighbors pretty much realize they have to just adjust because it's important enough, or we can talk about it further and move it forward anyway.
Right, because they could
Yep.
maybe be in the road and then their family could be in the driveway, or whatever parking. So yeah, that it's at their discretion. If they're having a big family gathering and there's, 10 cars, well, maybe they'll have to do some walking.
So did someone make the motion?
I did.
Councilwoman
President.
Souza.
So, thank you, Council President, Vice President. In looking at this ordinance and listening to Councilwoman Souza's comments, I was thinking about this, actually, I was driving here today. I do think we need to specify in the ordinance where the permit needs to be placed. So I'm wondering if you would entertain an amendment on section C, so we don't have to go back to first passage on the second passage, that after the says the period, the permit shall be valid for a period of 24 months from the date of the issuance and shall be placed on the driver's side front windshield.
That's a good idea.
I would say.
Or someone.
Because the other side has the inspection.
Inspection sticker, that's
I
right.
don't want to.
Well, I would say because that side of the street, well, I guess it would be going down.
Both
I would-
sides, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it could be on the back driver's side windshield, the top,
Rear?
the rear.
I think it needs to
Yeah.
be specified somewhere, so I'm up to anything.
Yeah, I think the rear, most people, and I'm just kind of like throwing it out there, when you get your oil changed, they put that little sticker on the right corner.
That's on the front windshield.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you put the sticker. Yeah. Well, it's definitely on the driver's side. Because you have to park with the wheels to the passenger. So it would definitely be the driver's side, either front or rear.
I'm gonna ask Officer Snow, who is a veteran police officer, Could you come forward and
Yeah.
do you have an opinion on a parking ticket? Now, you were several years a police officer before here. Can you use the mic and,
He's an expert witness now.
yes, this is an expert witness. So as a police officer, not you were where, Warwick, was it? Yeah. And if you were trying to enforce a policy that had a parking sticker per se, where would you think it should be on a car? What would you be looking for? We know the inspection sticker is the lower right of the windshield, so we don't want to inhibit that area.
If the passenger tires to the curb, you'd put it on the outside of the driver's side, right up on the windshield, just above the, on the left, so you could drive by and see it real easy.
That's what I'm thinking. So the officer driving the street could look and see it if they.
If it's a one-way street and you're allowing parking on both sides, it might be a little more difficult, but it should be up on the driver's side, just below the windshield top. And so the officer has no trouble seeing it. And
For
change-
left-hand
and change-
corner.
And change colors every year if you're doing it every year.
Yeah, every 2 years. We'll do it though.
So upper left-hand corner of the front windshield.
It shall be placed on the upper
Upper driver's side windshield.
driver's side.
I
Yeah,
was saying the oil change, you're gonna have to move it below.
well, a couple inches below.
Just make it a special design with whatever you want to do, so it's obvious.
The city seal.
Make that amendment. if you want.
So I'd like to make the amendment to the ordinance that, I don't have it in front of me.
C.
C would indicate that the assigned sticker,
Let me state it so then you can just,
repeat,
it's, C would be added after the issuance, remove, striking the period and add a comma and the following language, and shall be placed on the upper driver's side windshield. That's where the permit.
on the
would be.
left.
Yeah,
Upper.
driver's
Well,
side.
it's always the
Okay, sorry,
driver's
yeah,
side.
yeah.
Unless you're in England.
True. So if you just make that amendment, Councilwoman, that'd be great.
Yep, so I make the amendment.
So that's an
as-
amendment. Is there a second to that? Councilman Lawson?
So, Council President, can I make the amendment before you rush me?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Just do it quickly.
So I make the amendment as read by the solicitor. Now we can move the vote.
And you'll second that? Okay.
Can you say that? No,
It was
I
seconded.
second that.
All in favor of the amendment? as read?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have.
Now we have to vote on the
On the actual
ordinance as amended.
ordinance as amended.
Motion to approve the
Second.
ordinance as amended, first passage.
First passage, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have. Thank you. Officer Snow, are you going to send us a bill for your expert testimony tonight? You can do that if you want. Just send it into the mayor's office. Next item.
You know, when people complain, well,
Make a motion.
I think we have to
into
go.
executive
Yes.
session.
Mr. Solicitor, now we're not going to discuss
yeah, we should go in
the
executive.
last item.
We should go in.
I think Councilwoman Souza wanted to go in executive session.
Okay, so at this time, we'll recess to executive session and return back to public session.
Need to make a vote on that.
So that was a motion by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Council Vice President Rego. All,
Oh, I'm sorry, to go, just make the record, to
Yeah,
go into
yeah.
executive session, Council,
yes, to go in executive
just
session.
cite the statute, because you have to state that, as you know.
And the statute, Rhode Island General Laws is 42-46-5, A and 2 litigation.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will return shortly to report out.
Council Vice President, reading out the claims report. As you know, the council just met an executive session on a claims report. The claim of Drew Tasker for the amount of $2,223.64 was tabled for a second estimate. Claim of Mr. Octavio Cunha in the amount of $1,192 was denied. The claim of Brianna Miselli of $327.18 was, motion was made to refer to the state for payment because it was a state road. Sewer charge abatements in the amount of $1,124.78 of Lana Ferrer was approved. Sewer charge abatements for Ms. Kathy Ann Gallant in the amount of $399.70 was approved. And Marcus Lopez sewer charge abatement in the amount of $833.05 was also approved unanimously. That concludes my claim report.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?